Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Kyle Evans here with you. It is a joyous time here in the New York baseball hemisphere because the Mets are already moving on to the NLCS. Things numerically looking good for the Yankees to move on to the ALCS. Can't ask for anything better in October baseball than the teams advancing through. Kyle, good to see you. It's been a fun week of baseball overall here locally for Mets and Yankees fans.
Yeah, and every day I just get shocked seeing the Mets continue to do what they're doing, finding every way to win a game. And, I know New York's definitely buzzing, and it just makes for the playoffs, even better, with the Yankees still in it as well. I think up until the other day, it had been like 17 or 18 years since they both played on the same day. There's a lot to be excited about, especially if you even live in New York and you just see the city buzzing about the teams.
Yeah, there's been a lot of video I've seen circulating on Twitter and other social medias, especially after the Mets clinching last night, at Citi Field and the environment around Citi Field, which I don't know if it fully gets like that in that sense, if we know what we mean here, but I know obviously the city itself pretty palpable right now with the teams going on. Let's get into this a little bit more. Let's start with the Mets. NLCS spot clinched, taking care of the Phillies in 4 games. I guess even really, to be fair, at this time last week, we're still trying to figure out would the Mets even advance. They handled the Brewers in Game 3 of the wild card round last week on Thursday to get to this point. Got to be honest with you, Kyle, obviously outside of really one game, the Mets just looked like the much better team than the Phillies. And that's something that we kind of even talked about a little bit to a degree, kind of leading up to this, right, is the fact that the Phillies hadn't looked as kind of dominant as they had down the stretch than they did at, really even the All-Star break, to be fair. And, for the Mets, who, again, pound this point home, they've been the hottest team in baseball, going all the way back to the end of May as it stands right now. It's one of those things where we always talk about, would you rather be good or hot in the playoffs? And the Mets just have kind of that perfect combination of both going on that, like I said, for 3 of the 4 games, they just looked like the much better team compared to the Phillies.
Yeah, and that one loss they did have, they were 6 outs away.
True, yeah.
Edwin Diaz came on and struggled, and, I hear a lot about him lately, but also people got to look at his workload. He has not done what he's been doing the last week all season. In fact, he's on the injury list for a little bit. Managers don't like, overusing their guys in the regular season. So this is unfamiliar territory for him. And I know he said his mechanics were off too. But yeah, I still would have faith in him. We saw him blow Schwarber last night with 101. So, I think the only still question mark that I would have going into the NLCS is their bullpen. But now, since they clinched, a little early, they get that extra off day, or 2 off days, than the Dodgers and Padres winner would have. Mm-hmm. So their bullpen should get a nice full reset, and they should be lined up perfectly.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it. We can bring it up right now a little bit here, right? The fact that they don't know who they're playing officially yet. Padres unable to close it out last night, going into the decisive Game 5. Now, tomorrow night in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. And the only, I guess, negative for the Mets, if you want to even view it like this, despite the rest, is the fact that no matter what, they got to go out west first for the first 2 games of the series. And I'm imagining at this point they're kind of just going to wait for whatever happens tomorrow night before officially getting a move on. Game 1 of the NLCS taking place on Sunday. Obviously, moving at a time, luckily that logistics aren't too big of an issue in that sense. But we'll jump into that more here in just a second. Do want to talk about a couple different things here with the Mets. I kind of want to obviously go all in here on Francisco Lindor, Kyle. Obviously, hits what ends up being the go-ahead winning Grand Slam. And, he's the guy that has really banged the drum for this team all year. And I kind of waited until this morning to kind of say this and talking a little bit around the office with everybody. I think that's his legacy moment with the Mets, in all honesty, as it stands right now. Could obviously something else happen? Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that's the end-all, be-all, but for a guy who has really embraced the team, the fans, and kind of become, something we talk about all year, become that guy that they can latch on to and know that no matter what, he's going to be there. That moment last night and then the celebration afterwards on the field with him, he had his daughter again at the post-game press conference. You can tell he's all in officially with this. And I think that moment last night, whenever the time comes that the Mets honor him in retirement, right? It might be that leadoff clip that you show in the highlight reel.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. That was a huge swing, not only obviously to give them the lead and give them a confidence boost because they were leaving tons and tons of runners on early in that game. They had the bases loaded several times. Ranger Suarez got out of several jams to hold them off the board. So, if it wasn't for that swing, that would have just been a frustrating loss because of all the chances. And then you're going back to Philadelphia, where you did win a game, but you don't want to go back there for a winner, go home game. So. It was just a huge swing and definitely will be shown on several clips, especially if they even, make it to the World Series or I guess even win it. It'll be on replay for a while.
Yeah. It's going to be the moment. Another thing, too, about Lindor that really caught my attention yesterday, and I don't know if they've discussed it before this point. Like I said, I think it just was within the moment, so maybe they have discussed it. If they did before yesterday, I apologize. But he's still dealing with that back issue as well. And they talked about after the home run, he still has to get 40 minutes worth of treatment before each game on his back. And that's the wild part to me. Backs are brutal, man. They derailed, frankly. I know this is not maybe the right whatever here, but they frankly derailed Tracy McGrady's career in basketball. Just having back spasms, right? I'm about to say you probably don't even really remember him, Kyle, right? Outside of being a San Antonio Spur at the end, really weird stuff like that. It's just one of those things where it's backs are brutal. They derail careers, man. And the fact he's going through treatment literally every day for 40 to 45 minutes and going out there and still producing at this high level, it's frankly crazy to me. It really is crazy to me.
Yeah, it really is, and we talk about it all the time, the way he started his season too, the way the team started their season, and to just be able to turn it around and to just keep winning games, and you can just see there's no pressure because nobody thought they'd be here, and they've been counted out a lot, but they just roll with it. The stars are showing up, the role players are doing their job. Now they have an ace that's came out of probably nowhere because, Sean Manaea going into the year, did you really think that guy could be an ace? No. So, and then Jose Quintana, he looked even good last night. So, yeah, just everyone's doing their job. This is what a World Series team can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Manaea specifically for a moment. Very emotional victory a couple of nights ago. Kind of found out some reasons, the background about why he's wore 59 this year and stuff like that. You talk about, right, Kyle? I think you said it perfectly. A bunch of guys, for the most part, who thought, there's no expectation, and that's why they could kind of go out and let it all hang out. And Manaea might be really the perfect encapsulation of it, right? He just goes out there, frankly, probably had a career-saving year borderline, right? Like, this was a guy a few years ago, I remember, I was hoping that the Yankees would go out and get. And just things just didn't go right, didn't go right for Manaea. And now here he is, and on one of the bigger stages you can get on in baseball, before the biggest stage, has the player of the game interview, is the player of the game, and you could tell just how much it meant to him that he was able to go out there and perform in the moment.
Yeah, and I forgot to even mention Severino's done a nice job. Even when he does struggle a little bit, he still gives him length. That one start in Milwaukee gives me a good reminder of that. And yeah, like I said, I don't really think there's a player right now you could complain about on that team. Maybe other than Phil Maton, he's definitely struggled.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Diaz stuff is there, but I still don't think he should be worried. I mean, you saw him in the ninth settle down. I don't know. I think the vibes are at an all-time high, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it, but they're getting another player back, Jeff McNeil.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second because it's kind of, I wouldn't say a first of its kind, right? But it's been a while since we've seen something like that. Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of guys we haven't mentioned, right? One of the guys that stick out to me is Ryan Stanek, for example, who, frankly, I think a lot of people wrote off, myself included. He's had a fantastic playoff overall for the most part. The way the playoffs shake out, where you have guys in different roles. David Peterson again comes out of the bullpen yesterday and shows out really well. It's just one of those things where there's a lot of these guys, frankly, turn into plug and play guys in the postseason, right? And they're showing that they can get the job done in situations they may not be accustomed to. And that's what it's all about this time of year. Yeah, let's touch on Jeff McNeil here because I've never really seen this. I think it's happened a couple times, but so he will be playing in the Arizona Fall League. If you don't know what the Arizona Fall League is, it's a league literally meant for first, second, third year, kind of your even top end prospect types, right? Just an extra month and a half worth of games before if they go to winter ball and stuff like that. They also kind of all play with each other on different teams. It's a mix, right, of different teams. Jeff McNeil and the Mets got a waiver. He will be playing in the Arizona Fall League tomorrow, Friday, and then on Saturday to see as much live pitching as possible with the intent of being activated and on the NLCS roster. That's pretty big. Now, McNeil didn't maybe have the best regular season, as we know, but I think for him, for the team, it's a big thing if you get him back for the postseason, especially in my mind defensively, more than anything else. It gives you a little bit more flexibility. We know he can play second base. We know he can play corner outfield. Can probably even play him at first base a little bit in a crunch time situation if you need him to. It's a pretty big deal that he's going to become more than likely available for the NLCS roster.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. Depth, just an option always off the bench if he doesn't get a start. And, lots of experience. He's been in the league for a good amount of time. And, you mentioned that you don't remember, or it's happened, but you don't remember the last time a player rehabbed in that league. I found it, Kyle Schwarber, before the 2016 World Series. So, yeah, it is rare, but it does happen. And, we'll see how he does.
Yeah. I mean, I think, too, for him especially, right, you saw how much it meant to Brandon Nimmo yesterday, going back to the NLCS, and I think it's pretty big if McNeil is there. I think, was Nimmo up in 2015? I don't know if he was. I know McNeil was at least up.
I'll check.
I might even be wrong on McNeil now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know if there's really anybody left.
Nimmo, jeez, all this stuff loading.
Yeah.
Nimmo was 2016.
Okay, yeah.
I'm lacking on McNeil. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. McNeil was up at the same time, but I don't know if he was up at all in 15 and on the roster in 15 or not.
Sorry, it's loading.
You're good. Internet's interneting.
McNeil was 2018.
Wow. So,
yep.
You could tell. I mean, it's going to mean a lot, I think, for those guys.
So, what, 7 seasons for McNeil, So wait, so this would be how many playoff game? His first career playoff game?
Would it real?
Trying to
No,
figure this out.
no. It's a
Oh, he's
couple
played
of,
3 games.
yeah, I was about to say a couple of years ago.
Three
Yeah,
games in
yeah,
22.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for the Mets, obviously, as we don't know who they're officially playing yet. They'll get the winner of the Padres Dodgers, face them either in LA or in San Diego on Sunday. The first few games here, the first 3 games break out to this way: Sunday night, Monday night, and then Wednesday night. Before we'll be back on it here on the podcast on Thursday. If you're the Mets, I don't know who you would rather face at this point. I think,
What would you rather see, and then what do you think's gonna happen?
well,
Like, what do you think's the most more fun match?
yeah, I mean, well, fun would be Mets Padres as a baseball fan would be just the most fun. I if you're the Mets, I think you'd rather. This goes back to my feelings about the Yankees, for example. How I think I would rather them play the Orioles for the sake of baseball, right? For their own sake. I think they'd rather play the Dodgers. Dodgers are really banged up right now, and their pitching has just been beyond hit and miss. Now, that being said, for the Dodgers, their bullpen's really stepped up at the moment. I'm not going to lie there.
Out of nowhere.
It's one of those things where I thought that was really the biggest Achilles heel for them, and they've come on really good here in this series against the Padres. I still think I'd rather run up against the Dodgers just because their pitching has just been so meh. I think that's what I would rather do with a team that's red hot right now. That'd rather be the case. So from a baseball standpoint, the tactician side of standpoint, I'd rather them face the Dodgers. From a pure fun perspective, for my own personal enjoyment as a baseball fan enjoyment, would probably rather see the Padres in that sense.
Yeah, and the Mets did go 2-4 against the Dodgers, but I don't look at that because that was April and May.
Right.
Completely different teams since then.
In fact, the 2 wins against the Dodgers, was that during that weird West Coast?
Yeah, it was early,
Yeah.
end of April.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, the Mets went 5-2 against the Padres.
Yeah.
In the regular season. So, yeah, I mean, definitely Padres Mets would be my series that I'd love to watch. But if I'm a Mets fan right here, I'm loving the Dodgers matchup because they're pitching. And last night it was very surprising. I thought for sure the Padres were gonna rally against that bullpen, even falling down early. But as you said, they've stepped up. But doesn't mean they're not due for a bad game coming up, or if they do get into the next series, because their bullpen has been bad for a while. So this is like a rare occasion where they're pitching well.
Yeah. Got a little bit of breaking baseball news here, actually.
What about the Twins?
Yeah. The Poland family looking to possibly explore the sale of the Twins. So, interesting stuff there. All right, let's go back to the AL then. Perfect little transition. Yankees up 2-1 on the Royals in the ALDS, getting a win last night, Wednesday night. We'll start with Game 3, obviously, here in this sense. The Giancarlo Stanton game, to put it bluntly. RBI double to go ahead, and winning home run. Also, my personal favorite, his first stolen base of any kind since August of 2020. Giancarlo Stanton, a guy that we haven't talked about a ton this year. Haven't, I guess, really had the need to in that sense. But it's one of those things where it's like, thank God that he's on the team and in the lineup as it stands right now, because yesterday would have been obviously a completely different story if he's not even batting at all.
All right, so let me open up on my thoughts here.
Uh-oh.
I think the Yankees have been extremely underwhelming.
Okay, well, that's true.
Yes, if it wasn't for him, they would have lost. And I seriously think they could have been swept. You go to that for game 1,
Yeah.
the challenge doesn't go their way. They don't take the lead ever. And the Royals, they were hitting the Yankees pitching really well in game 1. And the Yankees had used a lot of relievers at that point when that challenge did go in their favor. And then, like I said, game 2, they scored 2 runs. The second one didn't come to the 9th inning. And then, Stanton has 3 of their, 7 or 8 hits, drives in 2 of their 3 runs. I mean, Judge is doing absolutely nothing. Their starters aren't giving him length. I just think it's extremely underwhelming what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so you kind of opened up what I was going to get down to after we get through the Giancarlo stuff here. Pitching very clearly not the issue right now for the most part. Yes, it's had its moments of whatever, like Rodon, obviously, for example, right? Garrett Cole, for example, a little bit here, but for the most part, right, pitching isn't the reason that the Yankees are having their struggles against the Royals. It's been within that lineup. And that's something that we've talked about.
It's every post.
Even, last week when we were talking a little bit about who we'd rather see the Yankees kind of face, right? And the Judge conundrum, it's interesting as it stands right now, right? Because
it's bad.
There are some at-bats, like he had two of them last night where I'm like, those are just good at-bats. Baseball's kind of baseballing, right? But then there are some of them, and even within one of the at-bats yesterday, where you can tell, like, I think it's getting to him in a way, right? Where it's just like he's trying to overcompensate, I guess. Like, he swung and fouled off a ball that was, like, at his eye level, which is just insane yesterday. I'm like, how the hell do you even get the bat up there for him even? And to me, when I see something like that, this is just my opinion on it, that's just a guy trying too hard, frankly, to break out of something, right? It's crazy because, not to go back to the Dodgers fully here, right? But one of the things that going into the series against the Padres that the Dodgers had to deal with was the fact that Mookie Betts in the past few postseasons has just been miserable, right? And he's kind of broken out of that a little bit now as it stands right now. He's had a couple home runs. If it wasn't for one hell of a play by Profar in game two, game two rather, apologies, he would be having a homer in 3 straight games to lead off the game, frankly. And one of the things that they were talking about with Mookie Betts was like, well, nothing's wrong with his swing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Judge's swing. I think it's just all mental at this point. And I don't know if the Yankees have any other option but to kind of leave him where he's at, because of just the struggles overall around him. Look, the cleanup spot, and I'll be intrigued to see how the lineup comes out tonight. I'm really intrigued to see if we see Giancarlo move up to the 4 spot in the lineup tonight after yesterday's game, because Wells hasn't been doing exactly great either that spot as it stands right now. So just one of those things where I think I'm kind of thinking out loud a little bit, like, what can you do to help Judge out even more a little bit here and help him break out? Maybe you do a true sandwich, Soto, Judge, Stanton, I don't know, but they got to figure it out ASAP, because it can't keep continuing on, especially as it stands right now. And I know this is something we'll get into more here in a couple minutes, but I don't think going up against either pitching staffs of Cleveland or Detroit, depending upon what happens in that series, will help Judge out either.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough because I consistently been hearing, especially after last night, like, oh, he's hitting the ball harder, he's having better at bats, blah, blah, blah. This is the postseason. That doesn't matter. Results matter. And if you go and look at his game logs, he has not been a good postseason hitter since 2018. He went 5 for 38 in 2020. He's 1 for 11 in this series with an infield single.
And the funny part about 2018, right, is I think that's his second worst regular season that he's had.
Yeah. So, and tonight you look, oh, Michael Wacha, not our overpowering guy, huh?
Yeah.
1 for 18 with 11 strikeouts against Michael Wacha in his career. Just can't touch him, never has, and seems like he'll never will. So, yeah, as long as they win, you don't really care as much. But at the same time, next series, if they do, advance, you need Aaron Judge to produce. I mean, even if he's not hitting home runs, just driving runs or just get hits or at least get on base. Lately, he hasn't even really been getting on base a ton as he's capable of. And then at some point, Juan Soto, he did have 3 hits in game 1, and he's been walking and almost hit a home run last night. But if Judge doesn't hit, they're going to need a lot more from Soto, which is crazy to ask, but you're just going to.
And that's the thing that, you can really attest to, given your background, right? Like, if you're a Royals pitcher, you can more confidently go after Stanton or Soto then, obviously in the 2 spot.
Yeah.
And you could tell, frankly, that that's something that Lugo was doing, to me anyway, very clearly. I think the only true anomaly so far with the Royals starters anyway, and I think maybe it was just the curse of being two lefties starting game two. I don't know, but like Cole Reagans did not look like his normal self, really, to be honest. I thought anyway, he looked like he was to quote maybe crossover fans here of certain teams in the New York area, I thought he might have been seeing ghosts in a way. They showed, I kind of felt bad for him. They showed a camera shot of him looking in, I believe over at first base. I forget who was on, but they did it a couple times. I'm like, that dude is like scared right now. Like, it's weird. Like, he looked fearful. And maybe he wasn't, but like that was just like the look on his face. I was like, this is wild. Like a guy like him doing that. I don't know, but that's baseball. One last thing before we kind of get into tonight, and then what happens with the Yankees here following the game tonight. We've had a really weird rivalry bubble up between Josh Chisholm and the Kansas City Royal fan base. Just one of those things where it's the way I explained it to my dad last night, Kyle, and I kind of, as I said, I had to hold his hand through it a little bit here. If you look at the full context of the quote, it's not like he was saying the Royals got lucky in the game to win. But as I said, you also said those words exactly out loud as your final sentence. So, like, I don't know what he fully expected them to happen here in terms of emotional. And then following, game 3 last night, booed the whole time, got the, as I call it, the NBA treatment, right? Whenever a guy gets a ball, the team's just booing the guy and everything like that. And then post-game, yesterday I thought he handled it pretty well. Took a page out of Dale Earnhardt's book, as I call it, and, they don't make noise for nobody type thing, right? You don't boo bums. So just one of those things were very interesting. The one thing I take away from it, though, more than anything else, is, like, don't give anybody bulletin board material in the playoffs because it usually comes back to haunt you pretty quick.
Yeah, I kind of get where he's coming from, too, and because the Yankees have left an unbelievable amount of runners on base. Had they just gotten one big hit, I mean, things would look different, like especially in that Game 2 loss. So I think that's what he was referring to. But yeah, at the same time, I hate, drawing attention and being the headline. And now it's a headline, and it'll hopefully end tonight because the Yankees need to take care of business with their ace on the mound.
Yeah, so perfect lead-in, Kyle. You mentioned ace on the mound, 8:08 tonight. The only baseball game in, well, not the only, misquote that there, but the late game, I guess, out of the two, 8:08 on TBS, Garrett Cole, Michael Wacha. It's one of those things where I feel confident in Garrett Cole. It's just I don't know if I feel confident about the offense, and that's the main struggle with this right now as we've been talking, right? I don't know if the run support's going to be there for a spot where I think Cole knows, like, you'd rather, I think, get this game than have to go back to New York for Game 5 in a weird way, right? I think you'd rather just end it tonight, get it over with. That's something, that, Kyle, that you actually mentioned with the other NLDS series out west with San Diego and LA, that, you'd rather have ended it in 4 despite anything else. That's just the vibe I kind of get from this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, see, I worry about Garrett Cole because of that Game 1 performance. The Royals don't strike out a ton, and they put the ball in play, and that's what was happening against him. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but man, the one guy that annoys the hell out of me, Yuli Gurriel. The guy's, 40?
That's not who I thought you were going with.
He's 40, and he just continues every pitcher the Yankees throw out there.
Can I tell you who
hitting.
Can I tell you who I thought you were going to say?
Who?
Maikel Garcia.
Yeah, he's a Yankee killer, too. But yeah, Gurriel, man, he just constantly hits every time the Yankees throw out a new pitcher, it seems like.
Not to interrupt again, but did he get hurt last night? It was really weird on that pop-up in foul territory. It looked like he kind of lost track where he was near the camera well. When he banged off the wall, he was limping off the field.
Yeah, I don't know if, he probably hurt himself a little bit, but I don't know if that's going to affect him tonight. But yeah, I mean, I'll say the Yankees are going to win this game, but it just, like I said, everything's been so underwhelming that if they don't win, I'm not going to be surprised. And you're right, yeah, Game 5 back in the Bronx where the Yankees don't play well. They simply don't. They haven't in a while. You don't want to do that.
No. I think the intriguing part about, a potential Game 5 as we have to view right now is how do the Yankees approach it for them? I would imagine.
It's going to be Rodon, probably.
Right. What I'm saying is I imagine you still let Rodon start.
But I wouldn't.
I mean,
Luis Seal,
I was about to say Luis Seal's the first one out of the pen, I'm assuming, right? And then at that point, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah, I mean, what Rodon did the other night was completely unacceptable. You 3 shutout innings, and then you completely unravel in the 4th inning, and you don't just give up a run or 2 on a couple hits. You just keep letting the inning going. Like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You're getting paid all this money, and you can't get through the 4th against the Royals. So annoying.
Yeah. All right. So same question here at this point, Kyle, that we pose, much like we did with the Mets here. So hypothetically here, who would you rather see out of the Tigers and then the Guardians? Should the Yankees obviously get to the ALCS?
Well, I think it's funny the Guardians haven't scored in 20 innings.
Yeah. A franchise record on multiple fronts.
It'd be a rematch of the 2012, what was it, the ALCS,
Yep.
Yankees, Tigers. I think I'd rather see the Tigers.
Really?
But I think from a, high intensity energy in Cleveland and New York would be crazy.
Yeah. I think Detroit would be pretty wild.
Cleveland
too,
scares me.
Yeah.
Because they're struggling right now doesn't mean they can't get going, and their bullpen is. You think the Yankees' offense is struggling now? Psst, good luck with their bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching the ALCS in college in 2012, and Derek Jeter destroying his ankle.
Yep.
That's embedded in my mind.
Oh, we can have one more discussion quick.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. Trust me. Go on Twitter. You probably do know this. TBS is
Oh.
awful.
So I didn't know how I wanted to approach this. I figured I would do it as like our last final talking point. So I mean we're at that point pretty much already. So we can do it here.
That's what
I had such high hope. I'm a big Costas guy and I'm a big Ron Darling guy, and I had high hopes for this broadcast, for this series, and it hasn't been great for Costas. But my God, the production quality has just been atrocious. It's been bad. Like last night, don't get me wrong. Like I don't mind seeing Giancarlo Stanton run the bags, but like as soon as you see Soto rounding third, you need to be on that, or at least on the throw in, because it's very apparent that Salvi had to go run off home plate and go and grab it someplace that wasn't directly at him,
Yeah, and even the stuff they talk about in game. I mean, in these interviews, I know they approved it and it's part of whatever, but they gotta stop. I mean, this George Brett 3rd inning interview. I mean, we've heard about him
That was wild.
in New York. We kept hearing about his name. We're talking about the 1980 Royals constantly. Every day we're hearing the same thing. It's always a story other than what the game is. And then they're not showing the bullpens enough. The camera quality, like some of the shots, like they thought Aaron Judge destroyed one last night. It was a fly out to just in front of the warning track. And the announcing, I mean, no energy. And then Costas thought Volpe dropped the ball on that line out. Like, what are you watching?
Well, the one, and I know we're really highlighting, I think, last night, but it's just because it's so fresh. I mean, the one that really killed me, and frankly, look, I don't know if challenging what was upheld as being a foul ball,
That was insane.
right? I don't know if that was the exact right move anyway in the moment. I personally didn't think it was, but what were those camera angles that TBS had of that? Because, like, of course the ball's going to look white on white like that at that angle, because you just don't have enough pixels to differentiate at that point anyway. So, of course, as a fan base watching, people are going to be upset, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm going, like, you don't have any angles to overturn. It'd be like if you called it fair on the opposite end, right? They call it fair. Kansas City would have challenged. Like, I don't think they would have had anything to overturn on that one at that point anyway either, no matter which way they called it.
Yeah, I really hope Costas, I don't think he is. He's going to do the next round. I think it's going to be Brian Anderson. He's been doing it the last couple of years. And he's so much better. I was listening to the Cleveland-Detroit game. Way better energy. Knows. I mean, Bob Costas knows a lot, of course. He's been around forever. He knows a ton of information. Very smart, but his announcing just no.
How
And then how about the crowd noise? We forgot
Yeah.
to mention that. How is that fun? It's postseason baseball where you love to hear the crowd roar, but you can't hear it on TBS because they lower the mics. But on you go to Fox for the Padres Dodgers game, and you hear how loud it
Always the
is.
Mets,
Mets
too.
game, yeah, like terrible.
I was going to ask, how'd you feel about the Mets FS1 crew that they've had? Because I actually liked it for the most part overall.
I mean, yeah, I didn't. I definitely thought it was way better than TBS. I think anything right now at that point is. And the crowd mics. I mean, that Mets crowd you could hear so good. The camera angles I thought were pretty good for the most part. And an upgrade from ESPN. ESPN was awful too.
Yeah.
I don't know which is worse, ESPN or TBS right now, because they both were very bad. So yeah, I just can't wait for the series to be over. So I might mute the TV tonight. I really might.
I did see on, I guess, and we can probably get off of and head out at this point, but I did see on the Yankees subreddit, people were talking about this, and this is something I see a lot of on the NASCAR side of it, being a NASCAR fan. But apparently a lot of people have been muting the baseball broadcast TV-wise and streaming John and Susan on the fan. So
Yeah.
people are doing it.
Yeah, might have to. Or keep the sound for the Sabres game and mute the Yankees game.
I was about to say, luckily for you anyway, you have the capability of pretty much streaming anything you want. So you could put up German Bundesliga hockey and over that noise.
Or I guess I can listen to Al Michaels, but don't like his energy anymore either, so I don't know.
What about Herbie? You excited for Herbie again?
He's not bad.
No. All right, let's get out here on that note, Kyle. We're down the Sunday Night Football pass. So we'll be back again next Thursday. We got one team locked into the championship series. Can we get the other team? The Subway Series hope is still alive, people. Can't beat that. So Kyle Evans, Paul Russo signing off for now. We'll be back again next Thursday. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll talk next week.